Hi Sri, welcome back.
Thank you, Bhumesh, and happy to be in your show.
All right, so we could actually complete what we were talking in last episode. There are so many questions came, and then I thought we will go a little more deep into the do's and don'ts of a sales meeting this time because too
Some
many.
of it, I wouldn't say a very exhaustive list, but some of them, yeah.
Yeah. Some of them,
Mm.
yes, we might not be able to again cover. But lot many questions were coming last time about what we do during the meeting. We covered few of them, like we talked about not talking too much, not hurting the ego, not disagreeing too much with the customer. Some of them we covered, but the number of questions which are coming are too high. So I thought we'll maybe discuss more about do's and don'ts of a sales meeting today. So I'm very excited to talk to you and hear from you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. So one of the first question which came, and I'm sure this is something very very important for every sales guy to know that what time or what stage of the meeting we can introduce commercials.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. One of the cardinal rule in any such discussions or your value proposition is talk about more about your value that you create or you generate for the client, rather than jumping too soon into the pricing detail. But usually, obviously, there are various types of engagement that you propose. Usually, the most of the exact commercial price discussion happens at the end, after you are able to tick in all the other boxes. Once you complete ticking in all the other boxes, then you come down to the commercial price negotiations. And you always start, first and foremost is the value that you're going to, it's a value selling. The value you're going to create or generate for the customer. That's what you should be focusing upon. The pricing negotiations or commercials comes last after ticking in all the other boxes.
Great. So I'll tell you a few mistakes which I made in this. Actually, there are two beautiful things you covered here. One was that when we used to go to sales meeting, and there were technical guys or technical guys mostly discussing. We kept talking about because most of us are techies, so we kept talking about what technology we use and how we use the latest technology, latest methodologies in the project. But sometimes customer was only interested in how do you solve my problem. They were not worried about which technology you will use. They wanted how does your services benefit my business. So that is one thing you covered, which we used to miss. And sometimes we just spend too much time there not thinking about what value we add in the business which we are talking to. Second one, obviously, you were talking about pricing. I feel personally the mistakes which I would have made was I would put pricing in the PPT in somewhere in between. So we are talking and suddenly the commercials will come in the discussion. I
No,
think,
usually at early stage of sales career, people do tend to make those mistakes. Okay, you learn over a period of time, then you realize the pricing not the one you are going to sell it. You are going to sell the value, not the price. Price is the last comes. Yeah, that comes out of experience and maturity as time progresses. So you wouldn't rush into talking about the price in the very beginning. That will come much later.
yeah. So now I have learned this. First, until unless customer asks me about pricing, I don't talk about it. Or until unless I have shown all my value which I'm gonna propose, which I have proposed, and I know that customer has understood what we can do for them.
Yep.
Until that point, I will not propose commercial. In between, sometimes during the conversation, customer can also ask about the pricing. Then you don't have a choice. You have to answer if they are asking upfront. What's your what's your dollar?
No, that yes, sure. That is depends upon the construct of your proposition, and sometimes obviously let's face it. Okay, customers are smart; they're not idiots. Yeah, so they know, and they can make their own computations. And you're not the only partner or a vendor or a supplier they're talking to. They're talking to multiple suppliers, yeah. And not everybody talks in the same line, right? So customers gets a lot of knowledge and wisdom by meeting with the suppliers and his vendors. So sometimes the questions will come back to you, what they have heard from other vendors, other suppliers, yeah. So that is a normal thing. Now you got to be prepared. Sometimes, when the customer asks for it, yeah, certain details of the pricing, how you work out the pricing should be revealed probably when he or she asks for that information. Yeah.
Yeah, especially.
And it goes a long way in building a certain amount of trust between you and client at the early stage.
Yeah, so I would personally prefer to meet couple of times, figure out who are the influencers, who are the decision makers,
Yeah.
and then talk about my pricing. But I think in some cases, what happens is if they have spoken to, let's say, 10 vendors already, or they are tired, they want to filter fast. So they see, okay, let me ask the pricing right away. If their pricing falls in my range, I spend like next 1 hour with them. Otherwise, I'll shorten the meeting and save my time. So in those cases, I have seen customer within 10 minutes, they start saying, okay, tell me some ballpark numbers. Even though I'm trying to dodge that question and say, we are very flexible. Obviously, we will, come back to you. I'll make a proposal. I want to ask you a few questions before I propose my pricing. All that I will do to delay the, commercial discussion. But some customers I have seen, in first 10 minutes, they want to know whether we fit or not. And they would want to shortlist us, right?
I know this is it's a trap. Actually, I would personally feel one should avoid it, because if everything is same, the only, the point what you compete is on the price. Price is like it's like an abyss. It can keep dropping down all the time. If you quote X price, and the same customer can go and talk to the other vendor, telling, okay, this is the price I'm getting, and can you lower it? Okay, so we will never win that battle. Okay, so I would, given a choice, I would try to avoid getting into such trap in a customer situation. Okay, because I would rather talk all about the value and the benefit what I create for the customer. But having said that, if there are no options, but sometimes the situation arises where you get into that, yeah. So then, then the question is what you put in the table, what you don't put in the table, because there are things that you can work around, because at the end of the day, we are talking about here B2B sales, and that too in the services business. When you talk about services business, there is a life cycle, there's a lifespan. Yeah. One is there is a very specific thing. Okay, this is the solution I'm creating. Okay, and then there is a downstream after solution created and implemented. Then there is the recurring downstream support and service required. So most often, because in a service business like this, you tend to make more money during the downstream rather than the upfront in the turnkey solution. So it's like, if you take an example of, let's say, aircraft engines. Okay, Rolls-Royce makes aircraft engines, and it costs, to make an engine, it costs X, right? X amount of dollars or pounds or whatever it is. But then they do sell engines much cheaper or lower than the cost of production, because they lock in the customer for the lifelong service contract, including, you get a fee based upon number of hours the engine is flying. Yeah, and plus MRO and all those things. So there is a much bigger amount of money to be made, on profit to be made in the downstream rather than just in the original turnkey solution. So, the question is how you play around. Customers do know that. Okay, not that they are very private to that, and they like it. Okay, because they want you not only to be there as a turnkey solution provider, they also want to see that you are there even during the complete downstream. See, we're talking about more from an Indian software service context. Most often people, these days, of course, things have changed, and that people do look at the complete life cycle. But the good old days, people used to look at only about, okay, I'll do this turnkey solutions, deliver it, and I'll take my money and go home. Yeah, which is not a good idea if you look at it, because you are leaving a lot of money on the table. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that is also maybe a mindset, because most of us have quarterly goals and yearly targets. And we are worried about, if I just close this business and execute this business in next 6 months, next
Yeah.
1 year, my quota is done. I'm not thinking about like 2021, what will be my targets and all. So if you think about long term, obviously you have so much money available with the same customer in the same project, pretty much.
No, that is all again goes back to our one of our earlier discussion about the whole cost of sale and how do you make sure that you build a as a company as a company CEO or a founder, how do you build a reliable sales team and build an incentive system or a quota system that actually recognizes not just only quarter to quarter, but also the ability to generate additional revenue through such downstream opportunities.
Correct.
Yeah.
So related to this, one more mistakes which I would have personally made in initial stage of my career was when we get 30 minutes from a customer, we always assume, especially in India, we will get 5-10 minutes more later. But sometime a customer has given you 30 minutes and he doesn't have 30 minutes. And what used to happen is, because we are passionate, we end up talking a little longer. And customer, by the time we reach at a stage where customer is supposed to talk, customer says, I'm sorry, I'm done. I'm sorry, I have another meeting, I'm going. And that is, I feel, I think that's lost opportunity pretty much. Whatever you did actually has no meaning pretty much.
No, it's a Achilles heel of the sales profession, the time. Okay, it was most often you would have spent almost 2 days or 2 weeks or sometimes even 2 months preparing for a meeting. The meeting is actually, the client has given a meeting for, let's say, 30 minutes or 1 hour typically. Yeah. So you would have prepared for that 1 hour meeting, whole lot of things. Maybe, as I said, maybe 1 day or 1 week or 1 month. It's important, it actually has to think in your mind, hey, what are the things I'm going to stack up during 1 hour meeting, and what all I should cover, and how I should not run out of the time, and so that I don't really miss out the key things which I want to really talk about. And not only that, and making sure that I get a subsequent meeting, because most often for a salesperson, it is all about, okay, I had this meeting, I had to do good in this meeting so that I get the next audience, next meeting. Okay, that is the basic hygiene factor a salesperson think. Even before you think, okay, this meeting I want to get the purchase order. Yeah, that's the ideal situation, but not every meeting is going to turn into a purchase order. Okay, it's a build-up. Yeah. So it's I think there's something salesperson has to be very conscious in terms of managing the time. If it is 1 hour slot, have I covered all the points, and making sure in the very beginning when the meeting starts, just to tell the client, okay, these are the things I want to cover today. Okay, that will keep it as some kind of a placeholder even in the customer mind, because that means you are actually trying to get the commitment of the customer. Customer, please don't run away after 1 hour is over. Let's cover all this topic. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is, when you tell the agenda of the meeting in the beginning, let's say you've listed 5 things, customer sometimes can save your time. He says, you know what, this topic I don't understand. There's no point covering this.
Absolutely.
Current needs are not there. So
Yeah.
skip it.
Yeah.
So that is one thing which helps if you tell in the beginning. Second is, if you are going towards the end of the meeting, if you give chance to ask questions, you are giving your customer some time to ask questions. Customer will open up. He will give you a few more hints.
Oh, absolutely.
He'll actually give you clues how you can close the deal. I feel my customer sells back to me. He gives me sales, whatever clues, what customer wants. So if you don't have enough time, you don't get to hear from the customer.
Yeah.
And
no, that is true. In fact, many times the customer himself or herself will help you if you tell the customer in the front, this is the topic I want to cover. Okay, because that it solves part of your problem.
Yeah, and also if you have last few minutes left, which is relaxed for both the sides, you can actually ask, so what do you think is the next step? And customer can clearly guide you. Hey, you know what? I think you met all the stakeholders, or you still need to meet another guy before you make a decision. Or he can say, you know what? I think we covered everything. The next step is maybe to connect with the procurement team, or maybe he'll say, I'll send you the agreements. But if customer is in a hurry to go, then his mind is not working towards helping you. He is saying, okay, you know what will my other guy think if I
No,
run?
no, that means you already lost the deal. When
Already lost
if the customer is in a hurry, then it's a waste of the meeting.
And
I mean, it's important for salesperson to get the signal. Yeah.
also I've heard this, Shri, if I don't know if you've heard this. Um, Whatever, let's say we talk, we discuss, right? Typically after 48 hours, we don't remember it too much. Like somebody gave me this example. What did you have in breakfast today? So, Sri, you remember what you had in breakfast today?
Yeah, I mean, well, mine is very programmed, so I know. But you know, when you have a variety of breakfast,
Yeah.
then yeah.
Maybe yesterday I will remember. But the moment somebody is asked me day before, do you remember what you had? Actually, 90% of the people don't answer this question. They say, oh, maybe Friday. So maybe, okay, Friday, we generally prepare this. But they don't have a clear answer because we don't remember after 48 hours most of the stuff. Even though what we picked up in our hand and put in our mouth, we forgot. Just imagine a customer will not remember you after 1 or 2 days. If you send a follow-up mail, follow-up call after 1 or 2 days, he forgot most of the content of what you told. He remembers some perception he formed during the meeting. That's it. So if you get his commitment for the next meeting there, or if you get the next step right there, there is a chance that you will move forward. Otherwise, I have seen this. If you end the meeting without any next steps, and you keep following up after a few days, he forgot actually most of
No, no,
what was discussed.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because you know, it's all question is sometimes, of course, you know, sometimes customers has to come and meet, you know, 5 or 6 vendors. They'll come and meet everybody. Okay, which also means by then, even before meeting all the say 5, 6 vendors, they would have made a decision choice. Okay, I'm likely to go to a vendor A. If not vendor A, I'll go to vendor B because the customer, he or she would have done the complete background work already by then. Okay, rest is just you know, they'll go through the motions, right? So that is one thing, you know, it's important that you're not to fall into a trap. But sometimes, yeah, being in the profession, you will end up being in that kind of situation and end up in a long list, okay, not in a short list, okay, which happens most often. Many times, it's important for you to be also there for a long list because who knows, this time you're on the long list, but next time they'll call you again and you may be in the short list. You never know. Okay, so it's not something and you can rule it out because hey, I want to have come for a meeting provided I'm going to be in the short list, which is you know, it's a impossible ask all the time. Okay, so as I say, you know, it's always like you know, 1 out of 10 times or let's say 2 out of 100 times. You know, you get an answer yes. Okay, not that every time you will get an answer yes. Yes, right. Okay, but that's the nature of the thing. So it's important. See, it's also, these are all the indicators where when you go back, okay, once the meeting is over, you go back, okay, my opportunity funnel, okay, what are the chances? Okay, you put a probability, okay, because you have to go and report to your boss or your company, whoever it is, or CEO. So you put a probability, which are the likely chance of winning a deal. That depends upon, you know, your feel of, you know, various meetings you had with the various clients, okay, or various opportunities. Then you put a probability against each of them, and that gives a sense, okay, which is the opportunity real hot and which I can pursue. I mean, I should chase and get the customer mind share. Others probably, you know, you are there more as a, you know, for customer's sake, you know, because they need to call 5 or 6 vendors to get a quote or get a something. Yeah, unfortunately, that's part of the life, you know. But again, you know, I wouldn't say, you know, you rule it out because sometimes you most of, not sometimes, all the time, you have to be there in the game.
Yeah, I remember some of the meetings, and I could sense it. They are supposed to do 5 meetings before they finalize, but they have already made up their mind who they want
Absolutely.
to.
Yeah.
For this formality, they called us, and that's why I told, right, in first 5-10 minutes, the random questions are coming. Hey, what is your price? How big is your this? So you could sense that they are not interested in you, and I have been part of those meetings where we just went because they had to finish some process, their internal process, and we had to just go. We thought we are going prepared for like
I know.
Sometimes 5 technical guys I'm going with along with me, and then in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I can sense that we are not there. It is just that they want to talk to 5 people, so they need to, you know, do this meeting.
I know.
One more related question, Sri, which is coming. So I thought I'll ask this. So the question is, how many questions do we ask in sales meeting to a customer?
Well, that is a very tough ask because it all depends upon the situation. Because I would always say a salesperson has to be listening mode most often to the customer. If you let the customer talk, you won the half the battle. I can tell you. Okay, so one basic cardinal rule is unless it's called for, unless the customer asks for it, talk as little as possible. Yeah, and let the customer speak. Of course, you have an opportunity to speak for yourself, your value proposition, your company, that everything that goes with your proposition, that you should talk. Okay, but all other things, I'm trying to minimize the talk. Of course, you need to exchange pleasantries and check the weather, how's the weather, all those things. There's a basic courtesy, basic minimum, right? Yeah. But all the other things, I think it's important you let the customer speak more. Okay, you speak as little unless customer prompts you. Yeah, then you say, yeah, you talk.
Yeah. So that's what I would have done in few meetings where I've made this mistake. I thought if I ask so many questions, like too many questions, I will be, they'll get impressed. You know what? So your stock price was this last quarter. I saw the stock price has gone up or something. And in this whole process of showing your intelligence about the company, you will make a mistake because you
Yeah.
will, you know,
No, that is over enthusiasm. Sometimes, of course, salespeople generally are very, very, very enthusiastic people. Yeah, exuberance sometimes. Yeah, so it's difficult to contain, and sometimes they're out of their way. They talk a little bit extra, which is probably not a good idea.
you end up talking about, oh, I heard recently this news of acquisition or this, right? You are sounding intelligent about their industry and their business. Maybe he's not going through a pleasant experience with the whole thing.
Bhumesh, it also depends. Sometimes I'll tell you what, if the customer, if the kind of engagement you have or a kind of discussion you have with a client, if it is like a client has already identified you as a partner,
Yeah.
okay, then client will expect you to know a lot more about the client's business.
Yes.
Because then that's exactly what assures him, okay, working with a partner, not just a vendor, okay, not just a supplier.
Correct.
You are a preferred partner, okay. That means you are a lot more closer to the client, and which means you got to demonstrate that you have a deep understanding of a customer's business, their pain points, and what are you doing about you as a partner, as a supplier, doing to help those customers. I mean, you may not helping in solving all the problems, at least some part of it we should be able to say that, and the customer will appreciate. Okay, that is the level of discussion at a different level as a partner. Yeah, but if you're a pure vendor, sometimes talking about, unless the customer asks for it, talking too much about without you qualifying to be a partner, then I think that can it's better to be humble at that stage. Okay, until you become a partner for the customer.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because you can't have intelligence about 100 customers, right? You
No.
want to build intelligence once you know that you have a high chance of getting business. So, end of the meeting, I'll ask one or two questions. Okay, what is your, if I have not understood the requirement, I'll ask one or two questions just to show my sincerity that, hey, what is your requirement? How long is it going to be? Few, couple of questions, especially
No,
when
in fact,
customer says,
those few questions what you ask and get the response is the key input for you.
correct,
When you make a proposition, you possibly will end up expanding some of those key points. Okay, which highlights, which will again, I think it's a kind of a customer gets a little bit hook on the brain. Okay, oh, this person has really heard what I said, and he addressed some of those things in his proposal. Yeah.
yeah, because you have to prepare a proposal sometime after the meeting and
Oh
send it
yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
So it helps you understand. And I think
Absolutely.
this is a balance. Ask few questions, but don't go overboard. That is what I
Absolutely.
think I will conclude from your talk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is also related. So I will cover this also. I think this is my personal experience also. In one of the customer meeting, it is $100 billion company, a very strong technology company. And I had gone there as a sales guy with my whole team. And there's a guy from who's come from US. He's visiting Bangalore. And they set up a meeting, say, okay, get your team and we want to see your capability. So I introduced myself and I started the presentation saying, okay, so let me talk about my company, who we are, before we talk about what we are planning to do or what capability we have. I would like to talk about company. So this guy says, not rude or anything. He says, Bhumesh, you have 2 minutes.
Well, yeah, I know what it's coming to. See, a couple of things, right? So here, uh, customers know the salespeople are very enterprising people. Okay, they like to put them through the hoops, right, and see how you react. Okay, I mean, it depends upon how, again, it depends upon your equation at that level with the client, and how much liberty you can take in terms of, in that 2 minutes, in terms of what you want to talk or what they want to hear. It's in fact, it happens most often because if, in fact, such a question comes probably more often when you know the customer or you and customer know each other very well. Okay, then it's like, hey, you got 2 minutes. Or sometimes say, okay, customer doesn't know you at all, but then you are part of that, list of 5 vendors they have to talk, and they possibly already made up their mind, and then okay, you got 1 or 2 minutes to talk about yourself. Okay, so that's also possible. Okay, it's a situational dependent.
Correct.
So, but I think I would always take it as it's a challenge for the salesperson. He or she has to jump through the hoops of the challenge, because you have to think on 2 feet quickly. Okay, there's nothing like, I'll come back to you, or telling the customer, arguing the customer, no, 2 minutes not enough, give me 5 minutes, then you lost the deal, gone.
You don't disagree with customer like
no, never.
You say thank you for the 2 minutes.
Absolutely, and you jump through the hoops.
And then you're rushing through the whole thing in 2 minutes, and you say, okay, I have 2 minutes, so I'll skip few things. Let me talk about, this is the company I work for. They have been in the business for so many years. This is the team. This is the founding team.
Yeah, because 2 minutes for you can cover a lot of things. I'm sure. Yeah, you're very creative salespeople. He or she will we can cover a lot of things. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to go back. If let's say you covered in 2 minutes, and they start asking a question about.
Yeah, most often what happens. See, this is exactly the Achilles heel of a sales presentation or a sales meet, because you would have prepared as a salesperson for a 1 month to present in that 1 hour, 60 minutes or 90 minutes. You would have already made up your mind. Okay, this is the I'm going to presentation. You know what? You go and walk in there. You suddenly found the first 5 minutes the projector is not working. By the way.
Oh, yes.
It happens quite often. I mean, good old days, it's very often, okay? Because there's a compatibility problem between your laptop and the projector system in the meeting room there. Yeah, you lose 5 minutes, okay? Sometimes 10 minutes. By then your heartbeat starts beating up. Oh, out of 60 minutes, I lost another 10 minutes gone. How do I cover all my stuff? The point here is, you get disrupted. Your rhythm will get disrupted in a customer meeting. The successful salesperson is the one who knows how to adjust, okay, on that circumstances. Okay, so of course it's good to rehearse and plan for 60 minutes or 90 minutes, but be prepared when you go there. Your rhythm will get disrupted. So how good a salesperson is all about how well you manage such disruptions.
That's why you never want to be late, because if you are late, you lost your minutes.
None. Yeah.
It goes against you anyways.
True.
Great, Sri. I think I have many more questions. I don't think so we can cover it today, but wonderful conversation. I am personally enjoying it so much because I am a sales guy, meeting customers. I'm going through this experience very recently in my career, where all these mistakes I would have done or I have seen this happening. So I am personally remembering all what has happened with me during my career. So really enjoying this discussion. And
absolutely. In fact, Bhumesh, looking at the various comments coming from in the LinkedIn on all our series, and I find there are a lot of, especially among the youngster or young crowd of aspiring salespeople, there are a lot of questions and a lot of issues that they're raising in various situations. I think they were quite interesting. I know this kind of each session cannot cover all the exhaustive points. I think we'll try to cover as much point as possible in the subsequent series. It's been a pleasure, especially seeing a lot of comments coming from both highly accomplished and experienced salespeople, as well as youngsters and aspiring salespeople who are commenting on the interactions what you're having. Thank you, Bhunesh. I really appreciate this.
Thanks, Sri. Thanks for your time. Talk to you again.